Good afternoon. Friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. And this week's show is called Unringing the Bell. And I had met a friend that I had knew, a classmate, an old classmate. I bumped into this lady I knew a while back, a long time ago. And this was some time back also. Um, and we bumped into each other and we was talking about, how our lives had been. um, Asking, those questions. You have kids, grandkids, things like this. And she had made a comment that stuck in my mind over time. And she was telling me the story of, I was asking her about her grandkids and her daughter, and she told me a situation and how her and her daughter's relationship was estranged in a way. And she told me to comment of something that her daughter said to her that she felt was disrespectful. And she said, and I asked her, I said, wow, she was telling me everything that she had done for her daughter and how that had actually hurt her, that her daughter had had this response to her. And I asked her, I said, do you think that things could be repaired, our relationship? And she said, once you ring a bell, you can't unring it. And that stuck in my mind. And actually, that's an idiom. And it says, it's mainly talking about once something is done, it can't be undone. You can't undo it. And the situations like a mistake have been made or a secret has been revealed. And in these circumstances or instances, you can't undo the damage that was done. And that's what she was actually saying. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about unringing the bell. Can we actually unring the bell? And I'm going to talk like a little bit of sociology and psychology in this show. I'm going to touch into some of those things. So I'm saying the question is this true? If once something has been said, you can't unsay it. Once something has been done, you can't undo it. So is it true that you cannot unring the bell? And I'm going to beg to differ and say that you maybe not physically the action of ringing the bell, you can't undo it. But what you can do is change the reaction to the bell. You could become numb to it. We've heard this a lot. A bell constantly rings and it has an effect on you, or something constantly happens and we become numb to where it doesn't even affect us. The sound of the bell doesn't affect us anymore. Or you can compartmentalize the effect of that bell ringing. You can hear it, but it doesn't. You put it in a place and you understand it and you don't let it affect you. The ringing of the bell, the harsh reality of something that was said or done, or the impact, you can lessen the impact by compartmentalizing the effect, everything that happens. If someone calls me a name that I don't like, some racial slur, if I am prepared for that issue that it may happen, it's not going to have the effect that it may have had if I wasn't expecting it. Or once I sit back and realize where it's coming from or why it's coming out like this, then it's going to numb the effect of it. It's not going to have the same impact if you sit back and think about it. So there's a theorem. It's called the Thomas theorem. A little bit of sociology here. And this is something that was a theory that was developed in 1928, almost 100 years ago, by William Isaac Thomas and his wife Dorothy Thomas. And this is a theory, a sociological theory that states if people believe in something, they believe something is real, then the consequences will become real. Their reaction, the consequences, your reactions will become real. How you define a situation defines how you will respond to the situation. And this is called the Thomas theory. So, and I'll give you an example of that. Sometimes in society, we have these um, notions that, so say, like women should be the ones to cook and clean. And if you believe that to be real, or society believes it to be something real, then what will happen is you will start to have rules that will govern those ideologies. You will start raising your or kids in that manner of belief. It becomes a reality in society. That belief system becomes a reality. If you say, well, women are the one, the woman is the one in the household that should be cooking and cleaning. What you're going to do when you're raising your kids, you're going to have your daughter learning how to cook and clean to keep a household, like they say. And if you, whatever you believe that a male's role in society is, you're going to start grooming your sons to be part of society in that aspect. This is an example of the Thomas effect. Whether it's real or not, there's no written law that says women are supposed to clean. Or a wife is supposed to cook. A wife is supposed to clean the house. There's no written law that says that. But this is an axiom that has gone on, that has been perpetrated out throughout society. And this is the Thomas effect. So you start to treat individuals in a certain manner because of this belief system that has consequences to it. The consequences is reactions. Reactions becomes rules and laws and whatnot. Sometimes they don't become laws, they just become rules or axiom. And an axiom is something, it's like an unwritten rule or law, something that people just understand. You know, you don't hit women. You know, you don't put, a man should not, and it's just, that's an axiom. It's no law. A law is assault, period. It's not a law to say, oh, well, you hit a woman and it's different from you hitting a man, but society will look at it differently. That's an axiom. So this is a Thomas effect. This is an example of Thomas effects. Now, what comes along with that? Reality that people accept as a reality. So when a woman is not cleaning, cooking and cleaning, she's not a good cook, or she doesn't keep the house clean, then people will look at her in a certain way. She's not a good wife. You know, if she's married, she's not a good wife. You know, they come to your house, you say, hey, this is my wife. They look around, you know, they're like, man, you know, this guy married someone who's not really a good wife. That's the perception that will be had because it becomes a reality in people's mind that these are the things that make you a good wife. And, or let's say if society thought that husbands have certain rights over their wives, it may not be a written law anywhere. In some countries, it may be a written law, but I'm saying, like, say, like in America, it's not written anywhere that a husband have certain rights over his wife. Disciplinary actions can be taken by a husband if she's not doing the right thing, and she goes to the law. She can't, well, he hit me and things like that. They're going to look at it, well, you know, that's discipline by a husband, just like we do with kids. You discipline your kids. A child can't go and say, oh, my mom spanked me, or they made me go to my room, and you know, because that's how things are accepted. That's disciplinary reality in basically in our society. Or like if they say a husband have certain sexual rights over his wife, you know, and you know, in the bedroom, and he can do, you know, and she can't deny him certain rights or whatever. These are things that's not written, but it's accepted in society. This is the Thomas effect, and it controls how people go on or raise their kids, or the rules that they have in their household, or the rules that they have in their society, and you know, how people would look at you as a wife, you know, or as a husband. They're not going to be mad at you. Oh yeah, well, he slapped his wife because she did this and she got out of line. You know, people will accept things like that. She wasn't a good wife, and he'll say, well, she didn't cook or clean, or she didn't do this or that, because these are things that people in their perception of things become a reality, that you have this control over these as a title in your household. So who controls how you interpret situations? Who put that in your mind that a woman should be cooking and cleaning. All throughout society, a woman should be attending to the house like this in this manner, and a man should be doing these type of things. And we get in all these little arguments on social media about who should be doing what now because times are changing and whatnot. But who control these things? Who control how you interpret these situations that somehow become reality and have real consequences? The one who controls the consequences, the ones who do control the interpretations, control the consequences or the reactions in the society. But how do they control how you see things or what you perceive to be real? Now, a couple of shows ago, I brought up a couple of instances of something called the transmission theory. The transmission theory is how learning happens in a community to people. You have a transmission of learning, how people learn things. The transmission theory is like you learn from a teacher. It's in the schools, it's in the church, your religion, or it's in the media. Things become accepted as reality. This is how things should be. If you see it on a movie, you see this actor and he slaps this woman for doing something. It's like seen as okay. No one has a big uprising about it, and it's acceptable. It becomes acceptable. The Aristotelian nemesis theory of saying art becomes reality. The media becomes reality. What you see in the media becomes reality. If it's no big reaction in the movies to this thing happening, then it becomes a reality. Or is it art mimicking life? You know, he's doing it because this is how life is. This is why it's in the movies. This is why it's in the media, because it's okay for it to be happening. These are transmission theories of teaching, how people teach. And another way of transmitting this information in a transmission theory is social learning. Social learning is when you see things around you, and this is how, when you learn from what you see, and this is how things are passed down through generations and generations. Well, my dad beat me, his dad beat him. It's okay for me to beat my kids in this manner. Or my dad disciplined my mom this way, and this is how a woman should be disciplined by her husband. Or this is how a woman should act in the household. And my mom did this, and her mom did this, and this becomes hereditary and acceptable through social learning. You do it through observation. What you see around you becomes your reality, and the consequences will follow from what you are learning from your social learning, from your culture and your community. It becomes the consequences. This becomes the reality because you see it, and you see people doing these things, and you be believing that this is reality and how things should be, and then it becomes the consequences of what you believe is real. You start to do it yourself, or teach it yourself, or impose it on those around you and whatnot. You bring it up in your household with your kids, and these become the rules and laws of your reality. So if someone is have control over how you interpret situations, they have control over your transmission learning, or they have control over your social learning, they are the ones that control the consequences in your household or your community. And I hope I'm making sense like that. But what if that, let's take those same examples that I gave, was saying, well, a woman is supposed to cook and clean, or a husband has these certain rights over his wife. Let's say if that, let's take that out and put in, what if it was black inferiority that was taught in society? Or white superiority that was taught in society? What would be the consequences of that belief system being real? This is mainly what I wanted to tackle, the belief system with the Thomas effect. Remember, it's like if whatever you believe to be real, the consequences there will become real also. The reaction will become real also. You will treat people in that manner as well. Now, if they are the ones that control how you interpret what is real and what is not, or they are feeding it to you in their transmission theory of learning through your schools, through your church, through your media, then it will become a reality to you. The consequences of this belief will become a reality. The laws, we've seen this in this country. You had laws after the Jim Crow laws. after the emancipation, the laws became, because that was a belief theory that existed in this country. Black inferiority was an axiom, and it was also a written thing that they put laws in. They said that we was inferior or whatever. People believed it, and if they believed it to be real, that they could put a law out, and people don't believe in the law, and then they're not going to abide by the rules of that law. They may be worried about the consequences of breaking the law, but they're not going to abide by that law within the job or within their community. They're going to marry whoever they want to marry or be friends with whomever they want to be friends with, regardless of what the law says. But if they believe it, then there's going to be consequences. Their consequences will show through their actions. You don't have to have a law. There's going to be rules that people will make up, whether they're constitutional or not. I'm not sitting next to this person. I'm not learning from the same classroom that this person is learning from. I don't care what the law says. I'm not going to be friends with somebody like you. Why? Because you're beneath me, or you believe them to be a deplorable type of human, or whatever. You're superior over them, superiority over them. So there's going to be laws, rules, and axioms that's going to promote these things. And when we see it in society, let's say when something happens to a white person and the ambulance has to come, and it's like in the neighborhood, and it's we always say, man, and when I was coming up, the ambulance takes forever in the black community. There's no urgency to this emergency. That's how society treats you. There's how police treat individuals. There's no law that says a police officer is supposed to treat a black person worse, but it's in society. This is something that has been accepted. Goes back to the Thomas theorem. That, however, whatever you believe, there's going to be, to be real, whatever you believe to be real, the consequences will be real also. If I believe that you are less than someone else, then I'm going to treat you less than someone else when I do my job, i.e. the police pulling someone over. They treat you like you're less than or they will treat you less than they treat somebody else. If you substitute the people in there in the incident, they may treat another person totally different than they're treating you if you can exchange. And this becomes a reality, and the consequences are real. This is where the consequences become real. If the beliefs is real, the consequences are real. So when the police pull you over, the consequences will show how they feel. Society will accept how things happen, a reaction to how things happen. Just like I said, when a husband doing something, beating a wife or doing something, people will accept it. They have that authority over them. Now, if that happens to a white person, and society will react differently. This is what we have seen, have witnessed. And also, not only from there, how they treat us, but how we treat each other. If we have accepted this reality of being inferior, whether we say it or not, or want to say it or not, how we treat each other as opposed to how we treat others will show the consequences of our reality. What we believe is what we will see, the consequences of and the reactions of it. If a white person, some of us, we have this complex about us that we don't like to talk about. And sometimes when we're talking to white people, we speak to them differently. Our tone changes. And we act differently than when we're talking to one of us. And I'm not talking about when you're in a hood or something like that. I'm talking about when you go out to a professional environment. You will act differently when a white person is the one in charge than you will when a black person is the one in charge. We do that with our restaurants. We will act differently when it's a black restaurant than when we're in public with a white restaurant or a white person. We're not the only ones that do that. This is something that's prevalent in this country. This is something that we see at the job. Soon as we get a person of color, a supervisor, then we automatically think less of them when they're a person of color. We think that we could just talk to them normally in a different way, and when it's somebody else that's a white person, we speak differently. We're less inclined to be abrasive or to be like, come on, man, you know, this and that. You know, we're more tight-lipped with them. This is something that we have been grown to be, and this is the way that society sees it also. um so that's the Thomas effect that I'm talking about. We see the consequences of a reality. How we treat each other, it also comes into us. How we see each other, how we treat each other, how we act with others, and how we act with each other. And I'm going to get into something else. It's called Pavlovian conditioning. Pavlovian conditioning. I believe that's what it is. And it's from someone that many of us are familiar with. Um, it's Petrovic Pavlov, and it comes from the Pavlov dog. You know, that experiment, and many of us have heard of Pavlov's dog. And the conditioning, excuse me, what Pavlovian conditioning is, it's a learning process that occurs when you take a neutral stimulus and it's repeatedly paired with a biological significant stimulus. And what that is saying that when you take something that's a natural thing that stimulates you, and you pair something that is not that's neutral to you, that you care less about, you pair that thing to something that is a natural stimulus that stimulates you naturally, then that neutral stimuli will become conditioned stimuli for you. The Pavlov's dog. Now, Petrovic Pavlov he said he has a dog, and what he did is when he presented food, the dog salivates. Anytime we get food, our mouth it's a natural reaction, it's a biological reaction. We call that salivating. Your mouth starts to water. When you're hungry and you're ready to eat, your mouth starts to salivate. The dog will salivate. But what he did, he brought a neutral stimuli that the dog cared less about. You could ring the bell, the dog didn't react, he didn't care. When he rang the bell when presenting food to the dog, the conditioning process will start to make the dog respond the same way to the food. During the conditioning, you have an unconditioned response. Then after you condition the dog, you could bring the bell without the food and the dog will respond. That's called a conditioned stimulus. You have conditioned the dog to respond to the bell because he associates the bell with the food, because you conditioned him to think that they are one with the other. So now all you do is ring the bell and the dog will respond. He has a conditioned response that he didn't have before. So we have, and what I'm bringing, the reason I'm bringing this up is that Pavlov wasn't interested in controlling the conditioning of the dog. They don't do all of these things. They're not worried about. They're not veterinarians or dog trainers. They're trying to find out a way to condition people. This is why I'm bringing this up. It's not about controlling dogs. And in the same manner, the dog is something on a lower level, but the same manner, psychologically, they will try to condition people, to control people's responses. This is what they do in politics, in government, to control the masses. It's not just a military control, it's controlling your mind, controlling you, the way you react to things, controlling how they can get you to react to things that they introduce to you. Let's say a stimulus check. You know, certain person get in office and they're going to come up with this, and people think, oh, stimulus, that means it's going to stimulate the economy. Yeah, but it's also a stimulation for your mindset. This person comes in the office, we start getting this type of check, free money. Hey, maybe this person ain't so bad after all. Or some other people will say, well, this person is exactly, this is what I'm talking about. See, things just happen when he's in office. And this will get you to ignore everything else that this person is doing, because you start to be patted on the head or fed, or you get, when things happen with this person. This is conditioning. And now today you hear people talk about a $5,000 check, that you start to ignore everything. You hear some of these people, they talking about this check, this $5,000 check, but yet you're losing your jobs, or people are losing their jobs. And it's okay, because you're getting stimulated with what? Money, a treat. And you're going to ignore that, okay, you're feeding off of somebody else, the carcasses of other people in society. Those people are being let go, cut from their jobs, and all these type of things is happening. You start to not sympathize with them. You start worrying about the conditioning effect, the stimulus. This is what I'm getting from this person, as opposed to this is what this person is doing that's giving me this money. Even if I'm gonna someday lose my job because of the things that's happening in this economy and this government, and I'm happy because I'm not even paying attention to it. I'm not worrying about, well, you know what, this is what's happening over here to this person and this other person. It's going to soon happen to me. We got to put a stop to this before. No, I'm getting happy because I'm getting stimulated with money. These are the type of things that we are constantly bombarded with in society. They understand all of these things I spoke about. They understand the Thomas theorem. They understand Pavlovian conditioning. We have to understand these type of things. This is why I spend my time sometimes trying to relay this information, what it is that's happening. And sometimes we just don't have the words, so we don't know what it is. But this is the type of things that is happening in our society, and this is why these things are happening. Now, unringing the bell. That's the title of the show. Now, I brought up the bell in the Pavlovian conditioning, the Pavlov's dog, how he rang the bell to a neutral stimulus. And if we look at our media, like I said, when we talk about transmission theories of learning and how they try to teach us to be a certain way and control how we interpret things and how we break down things, what we see, how we analyze things and accept our realities, they do it a lot through the media. They see what it is that we are in tune to. If we're in tune to a certain music, then they're going to infiltrate that music with these conditioning stimuli. These things that's going to, if you look at the music, it used to be about when it got conscious. I'm not going to say it used to be about this. Sometimes the music has always been about music, celebration, dancing, things like that. And if we are in tune with the music and we're constantly into the media, the social media or the media period of music and dancing and things like that, and when it started to get conscious, they had to rectify that situation. That became a problem. So they infiltrated it, they controlled it, and then they controlled what we was hearing, and those artists that was putting out the things that they needed to smother the fire that they felt was burning in our society and in our community. When you had conscious people talking, what they started doing was promoting those that didn't do this to make others follow. You want that big bag of money. Sing, dance, Michael Jackson makes you happy. Marvin Gaye, when you start talking about we dying in the community and things like that, you're opening up people's eyes. They don't want to see that. And these are just pawns in the game, because people just singing about dancing and having a good time and you're not conscious, they're going to promote you. They're going to play you on the radio. They're going to have you on their late night shows. Those people that were talking about our surroundings and what was happening in our community, they're going to be suppressed so they can keep us oppressed. Happen in hip hop. Whatever it is, you talk about killing each other, you talk about you putting women down, this becomes the reality. This is the women should be, our young people are growing up. The transmission theory is taking it out of the household where the parents are trying to teach the kids this is how you act. But if it's have more of an influence, this artist has more of an influence on these kids, and they get these artists out here saying, or they promote the artist that's saying a certain thing, the artist is going to have more of an influence on our society. Then you're going to see it when you walk out the door. You're going to hear it in your music, whatever it is in your house, whatever it is in the church. It doesn't really matter. They square. They don't understand. This is how it is. This is what's up. You see this person that's talking all these detrimental things in their music and things. Then they start having bags of money. The thing that in your community, people, that the apple, the kids look up to. This is how this person. I'm looking at mom, dad struggling, working, going to work, getting up early in the morning. This person, all they do is make music, and they're living a lavish life, and they have all the women, all the jewelry, all the nice cars, and they're not getting up at 6 in the morning to put food on the table or worry about bills or telling you what you can have and what you can't have when you want to go buy school clothes. They're going to look up to these people, because these people are put in a position, the transmission theory of learning, to be the ones that's teaching you those things that they need to control in your mind. This is where it's at. You don't want to be like your mom and dad. You don't want to be like your school teacher. They're only making so much money, the cars they drive and things like that. Look at how this person is living. Who's paying these people to do this? It's not really us. Who's putting these people on late night shows and on and Super Bowl halftime shows or whatever you want to do in magazines and things like that? They're being pushed to the forefront to be that transmitted learning object that's going to teach you all the negative things. Their songs, the negative songs about this sexuality and all these things, this becomes major in the community, because we don't control the airwaves. They'll tell you that this person is popular, whomever they want to be popular. They'll tell you that this is what's popular, and they will suppress those that are trying to teach you otherwise. These are the things that is happening in our communities and in our society. There's also something called reciprocity psychology. Reciprocity is a social norm where individuals tend to reciprocate the actions of others based on how the principles of mutual exchange is how you treat me is how I'm going to treat you. This is basically what reciprocity is. It's an obligation to return a favor. Basically, that's easy as I could put it. It's an obligation to return a favor. If someone treats you kindly, or they come to you and they speak kindly to you, then you tend to want to be kind to them, even if it's something like a telemarketer. And they learn these things because sometimes you get telemarketers and you just want to, I'm tired of getting these calls, and you want to land to them, but the person asks, how is your day going? May God bless you, things like this. Then it's kind of hard for you to turn around and curse them out and hang up when they telling you, God bless you, may, this, and this. This is what they understand. This is what they know. Or if someone is being nice to you, if you have a neighbor and, man, their dog is doing this, but the neighbor is always nice to you, then you don't want to be that rude person to say, you know what, you need to, and you're not being rude, you're just being real. Your dog keeps digging holes under my fence. How you treat that neighbor whose dog or doing something is based on how they are with you, your relationship. If they are kind to you and they speak to you every time they see you, then you're going to be less inclined to be aggravated when you go talk to them about something that's happening. You're going to be nice. This is the reciprocity psychology. But it's strange to me that this is something that we seem to lack in our community. Let me explain. For all the history that we have had in this country, we should be reciprocating the actions that others have had or has threatened us with and has had in our history. We should be treating them in a certain manner or way because they haven't been kind to us ever since we've been here. They haven't been polite to us. A lot of times people are being polite because the law is making them be polite to us. But for some reason, with the long history that we have had here, we haven't had reciprocity or reciprocated what we've seen or how we've been treated. For some reason, and I had to tend to think it got to be psychological. Maybe it's fear. I don't know, but we haven't reciprocated. We tend to believe someone that doesn't look like us over someone that looks like us. I had a friend, I'm going to tell y'all this story. I had a friend, and I was telling the woman, she was like, my religion, I don't eat pork and things like this. But I was trying to tell her, why. I was trying to tell her that it's not healthy for you. And it was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's how I took that she was saying that. And I was saying, well, see, it's not just my religion. I said, if you look it up medically, they're going to tell you that all of these things come with eating pork, And then I was trying to tell her, all the food that we ate and that we eat as a people, the social learning that we have developed about our cuisine, where it come from, being slaves, being fed scraps and things they threw away, eating chitlins and pig feed and all this stuff. And I understand. She was like, yeah, okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then I remember this person say, Dr. Oz said that eating pork ain't good for you. And I gave her books. I was like, well, if you read this book, it tells you this, or if you look at this, and it's just who it was coming from. Somebody she knew, hopefully somebody she respected, but she didn't respect it in that manner. But to me, it's like because this person said it and how this person looked and the title that this person has and I could give you other doctors that was telling you the same thing, but it's just where it was coming from. And I didn't say anything. I just like, oh, really? Really, this is something I've been telling you for years. But when you hear it from, Dr. Oz or whomever was on TV, the doctors, whatever show that was, and all these white doctors, and they're telling you about other things. But then when they tell you about something that someone black has told you, then it has a lot more weight. But for us, it should be the opposite. Because these are the people that we have a history with, a history of lying to us, a history of lying to the world, a history of telling us that we were less when we knew we were more. Why is it that you put more trust in these type of people when they say it than when you hear it from one of us? I don't care if one of us was a doctor. When we hear it from one of them, it's not the title. And I remember when I was in college, we used to have, they spoke to us about these experiments. And we see these experiments on social media, how people react. And I know one of the ones that was popular recently, when they do these blind man things, where you have a white person that's blind and a black person that's both of them pretending to be blind. They have a walking stick and they walk out in society and they grab onto somebody's arm. And the normal reaction to somebody is to jerk away. But when they see it's a white person, they say, oh, he's blind. This is why he's grabbing me. Then they allow that person to walk with him. It's like, I need guidance. Help me. But when a black person does it, time after time after time, the reaction is totally different. Because it's still the consequences of their beliefs are real. If they believe this to be real, the consequences are real. The consequences is your reaction. So when they see a black person, whatever is in their mind, the reality that's in their mind about a black person will cause them to react a certain way. I don't care about you being handicapped. Get your hands off of me. And this is the reaction that we see. And there have been trials, like when I was saying, in school it wasn't social media like this, but they did this with students, they did this with people in offices, and they had a certain person dressed a certain way, like a white older man with a coat on. He had, and they had a classroom, a college classroom, high school classroom, and they just did it at different levels, and they showed how people react to certain stimuli, how they attribute authority to white men or white women. Then when a black man or black woman walk into the room, even though they may look older and they could be the teacher, class without no authority in it, the kids are talking. The longer it goes on, the louder, and everybody, they start making jokes about the teachers late, all this stuff like this. And they laugh and joke and talking, and they see someone walk in that's older, that could be a teacher. If they see that person is black, the noise level may stop momentarily, but it goes back up. Sometimes they think, well, maybe that person is just the janitor. This person can't be the psychology teacher, blah, blah, blah. Then when a white person comes in, all of them get quiet, especially when it's a white male. They thinking if it's a black person, it's all these tests and studies say, sometimes they think, okay, this must be a substitute teacher. But this is the consequences of their reality, the reactions to their reality. And sometimes when we deal with each other, it's the reactions, the consequences of our reality, whether we want to admit it or not. When we change our tone of voice when we're talking to white people, when we're talking to white people on the phone, when we change our tone of voice, when we're talking to a black person, when we're not changing our tone of voice. These are the consequences of our reality. But I'm saying in the reciprocation part of it is how someone treats you. You should have less respect for someone that has done the things that they've done to you historically. And it is understandable. I have a cousin, he contacted me, text messaged me and asked me about the flat earth. Do I believe the earth is flat? And I was like, no. But he was like, well, I do. And I believe that they this, and this, and this. And to me, just based on the conversation, what we're talking about, I'm like, come on now. I could talk to you about this. But what I do understand is the when he say they are keeping things from us. I believe that they are hiding things from us. I do understand why you would be like that. You have a reason to believe that they are hiding things from us. They are keeping things. Now, what it is that you believe that they are hiding, that's on you to discern and to come up with yourself. And I may not agree, but I do agree. I understand why you should not be trusting of authority, and especially in this country. Now, I went deeper into that conversation on the why, and I'm breaking it down, and that's a conversation I don't mind having with you, because I want you to explain to me certain things if you believe this to be so. But the whole perception that they are keeping things from me, I do understand it. The distrust in authority as a black man in this country, I understand it wholeheartedly. But what is it that you don't understand, that you don't trust, or who you think they are? That's something that we have to communicate about. The whole flat earth thing, that's a whole subject within itself. But I understand why you don't trust authority, because of our history. This is a reciprocated psychology that many of us have. I don't trust the news. I don't trust this or that. I'm not relying on that. And that's understandable to have that type of mindset. This is, I think, a mindset, even though I'm not talking about what they come up with, the theories, the conspiracies that they come up with, but the distrust is something that you should have as a black person in this country when you're talking about this government, when you're talking about what you have been taught. This is where you should be going out and trying to learn more with just relearning, just saying, well, you know what, I'm going to just condition myself to unring the bell the way that I have been taught, the things that I have been taught to believe in, and go out and relearn, unlearn, relearn. And if you come up with the same conclusion, then that's fine. But a lot of things that we believe, a lot of the reasons that we believe those things are something that's coming from a place that maybe you should question. And let me thank Sakina for showing up and Aisha for showing up. I appreciate y'all showing up. And so what am I saying? This, what is this show? What's the bottom line? To me, the learning, unlearning, relearning, and how we look at what we do, why we do it, how we come to these behaviors in our community. These are things that we need to look at and study. And the things that we accept coming from outside of our community, we need to take a look at. We need to start trying to control our transmission learning. We need to control the social learning that is starting to happen in our communities. When the social learning, people learning by observation and what they're seeing around them, you're going to look at our community and it's going to be decrepit. And when you're learning from something that's decrepit, you're going to have a decrepit consequence and a decrepit mindset. When you're not having rebellious people in your community, our younger people are going to learn social learning from a people that's going to act inferior. We have to change that if we want to make a change in our community. We have to, it's harder to say, well, I'm going to commandeer the schooling system, or I'm going to change the schooling system, or I'm going to change the church saying turn the other cheek, or my religion. If your religion isn't teaching you to be rebellious in the circumstances that you are in, if you're, whatever it is you're learning, whether you're talking about Afro spirituality or whatever, or religion or whatever, if they're not teaching you to be rebellious in the conditions that you're in, that's needing rebellion, then you need to seek that teaching from somewhere. We need to have that teaching in our society that's going to produce rebellious children that's going to become rebellious adults. We were not rebellious kids, not parents will beg to differ, but we were rebelling in a different way. We was rebelling with the norms of society, saying this is how you're supposed to be, and this is how you're supposed to act. But I'm talking about rebellious to our conditions, not wanting our conditions to stay this way. We have to change that in a psychological manner, a sociological manner, learning how to attack it, because these are the ways that we are being attacked with these things. Understanding the music, understanding the music industry, understanding the media, understanding who controls the media, understanding how they are controlling the way we see ourselves and how other people see us. Even people that come from other countries, they see us in a certain way because they have been conditioned to see us in this way and in this manner. We have to reciprocate the history that has been done to us, meaning don't trust everything that this government is trying to do or say that they're going to do for us. You could do it. If you're saying you're going to do it, you don't have to tell me, just do it. But in the meantime, I'm going to do what I need to do, how I need to do it to get what I need to get done. In other words, I think we need to have a black code in our culture, in our community, a black code of ethics, a black code of conduct. We need to develop. If you want to look at Black Panthers, go to their website and learn their codes of how they, to become a member, how you have to react. You don't do this to another black person. You don't do that. And these are things that maybe we need to implement in our society. Even if they become axioms, we need to start teaching these type of things in our society. You don't do this. You don't hit women. You don't steal from, you don't do these type of things. And this is something that we have to control. And it sounds basic. How we go out and if, like I said, when a long time ago I was talking about this with kids. You take your kids to black restaurants And they may want to go someplace else, and they may ask, why am I here? And you explain to them, this is why we're going here. Or you pick a day out of the week, this is Black Friday, Black Wednesday. We need to go spend money at a black restaurant, a black store, or something. We're going to seek them out. See if you could find one. When they get to a certain age, they know how to find stuff on the internet. Let's see if you could find one. How can we spend, and you make it entertainer or a game to them. But you have to do that, and that has to spread in our community. That mindset. It's sad that it has to be that you have to pick one day out of the week or talk about doing something like that because it's not the norm. It's sad that it's abnormal for us to treat each other in a certain way, but these are the consequences of our reality. At some point, we have to unring the bell that we have been conditioned to be in. And we have to become our own teachers, guiders, our own revolutionists, and stop looking for someone else to save us and save the day. I appreciate everyone that showed up. I probably won't have another show, and I'm more than likely, I know I'm not going to have another show until Ramadan is over. And hopefully everyone will check this out, take something from it, and hopefully I have a better show next show that I have. Peace. Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint.